Hello and welcome to another comedian's interview for my blog and podcast, A Rich Comic Life. My name is Richard Gill and my blog describes my experiences of watching over 1,400 comedians for the last 50 years. I'm delighted to welcome my guest today. It's the wonderful Mr. Thom Tuck. Yay!
For me.
Hello, my friend.
Hello.
How are you?
Yes, very good, very good. Just watched. You said this is going to be coming out much later, but just watched a very good FA Cup game live on the BBC.
Yes, I watched it as well. It was fantastic.
It was
We're
great fun,
recording this just at the end of January, 2024. Thank you so much for doing this.
Delighted.
I've been wanting to talk to you for a while. And it's going to be about 45 minutes to an hour long, all about your illustrious comedy career.
Wow. a select phrase.
And I'd like to start off, please, by asking, how did you become a comedian in the first place?
I think it was relatively predestined. I didn't start stand up until my first year of university, but every play I did at school, I was cast as the funny one. Everything pointed towards me being that kind of clown. I remember the first joke I ever told was fourth grade, so year 5.
Yeah.
Well, first joke I remember telling. All the other kids were making jokes about bum and poo, and Mrs. Timmins, the teacher, said, "Get the toilet humour out of your system." And I said, "Or your cistern," and nobody laughed. And then Mrs. Timmins went, "Shut up, Thomas."
That's genius. And you knew that's my calling card.
Well, yeah, the fact of not getting any laughs but still believing in the joke, I think, yes, I'll follow that.
That's just wonderful. What a start. So, your first ever gig, can you remember that?
Yeah, very well, very well.
Please go ahead.
It's the you must have been to the Stand in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
So they're Red Raw nights on Mondays, which still happen.
Yeah.
Monday, I think it's Monday in Edinburgh, Tuesday in Glasgow, and Wednesday in Newcastle.
That's right. Yeah.
But there used to be what's now the dressing room in Stand Edinburgh was the small room. So you know the main room in the Stand.
Yeah.
Like big touring shows would do that, but behind that wall is what is now the dressing room, was the little room. And so my first gig was Red Raw, Stand in the little room. I think John Scott compared.
Yeah.
And
from the past.
Yeah, great comedian.
Yeah.
Good lad. And I had a few friends who came, and it was all just so long-winded and up itself. I had a bit about being edgy, and my flatmate at the time had these American vitamins which had 1,000% of your recommended daily allowance of vitamin C. So I thought the funniest thing to do would be to do one of those with a shot of lime cordial. It was rubbish, but I got through it. I got some laughs, and I remember there was another act on called Mudfinger. I don't know if you've ever run into Mudfinger.
I safe to say I haven't, but a name is ringing bells in my head.
It's this brown sort of smock and this pointy brown hat and a toilet roll over his finger. And every punchline was, "I'll turn it to mud," and he would point the toilet roll, and that was every punchline. And his big closer was singing "It's Raining Men," but changing men to, you guessed it, mud. And I asked John, like, "Oh, is this like? Do I just not get it? Is this like a Kaufman-esque assault on the precepts of comedy?" And John's like, no, we think he was dropped on his head as a child.
But what is wonderful about those nights, and I've supported many of them over the years, is that you get these, I wouldn't say bizarre acts, but you get these acts on who just are willing to do whatever they want to get laughs, and that's phenomenal.
Or just following what they believe.
Yeah.
Because like, one of the great things about stand-up is, well, I decide what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I mean, you can then fail, but it's your decision.
Yeah. That's the wonderful thing about it. I mean, this blog, for example, one of the wonderful things about doing it is following people like yourself, who, because I list every single venue I've seen the acts in, and it's great watching them develop. It really is over the years. I remember infamously my favourite opening line ever to a stand-up comedy gig was Harry Hill, and I first saw him 30 years ago at the King's Head, well before he was famous, and he brushed past me, he jumped up onto the stage, and he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really sorry I'm late for this gig. I had to have a testicle brought down," and there was a pause, and then he said, "From Derby." And I've never forgotten that. And when I met him 25 years later, I told him this. He said, "Oh, Rich," he said, "I still use that to this day."
When he did my gig, the Alternative Comedy Memorial Society,
which we're going to talk about later.
Maybe it was the third year of it, third year of it, and we had a gig on Battersea Barge, and Harry Hill was on, and he came out with a lilo, and then went, "Hit it," and the Spice Girls song "To Become One" plays while he gently deflates the lilo.
He's so good.
Folds it up and then goes, "Well, that's that done."
Who doesn't like Harry Hill?
Oh my God. Just amazing.
It's the originality is just so out there that you just cannot but love him. It's great. What do you like to talk about on stage? Do you have any themes? Is it the first thing that comes up?
It varies depending on whether I'm doing a set or a show.
Yeah,
I think when I'm doing a show, I'm sort of more top down. Like, here, this is what I want to do with this. Whereas doing 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever it is, I'm just happy to freewheel, mess about, make people laugh. Whereas if people have come specifically to a Thom Tuck show, then I'm trying to create a sort of more intellectual structure.
Yeah. So for things like that, for the proper shows, shall we say, do you think in advance what you're going to say? Is it all structured out, or how do you go about writing it?
Yeah, I mean, my first show sort of happened by accident, because we'd done 5 years of the Penny Dreadful shows.
Yeah.
And then we all collectively decided, well, we're not going to do another show next year. We've done 5 years. Let's just have a rest with that. And then I started just doing stand-up again, and then absolutely lucked into this premise of watching all the Disney straight-to-DVD movies and talking about heartbreak and putting those two things next to each other. Just that was just happenstance. But the next show was about. I think most of the shows since have been about identity in one form or another.
Yeah, yeah.
And one of them was quite a formal a formula. It was I am X. My contention being that identity is a series of I am X statements.
Yeah.
Things we say to ourselves about ourselves, and some of them are necessarily false. But you can't say that at the top of a stand-up show. Well, I didn't. What I did was a Prince song.
Of course you did.
Open with a song. It's going to get applause. I did the splits. Fine.
That's what I like about you, fearless.
And bendy.
Tell me, please. You mentioned the Penny Dreadfuls. How did that come about? How did that start?
Well, we were all at Edinburgh University.
Yeah.
And we were in the improv troupe called the Improverts, which is a storied history. I mean, not just us. The playwright Lucy Kirkwood.
Yeah.
Miles Jupp.
Yeah.
Mitch Benn.
Yeah.
Kevin McKidd from off of Train Spotting.
Yeah.
My agent. What's her name? John Travolta. Her show Jodie. She's at Soho Theatre next month.
Right.
She's an invert as well. Jodie Mitchell. But yeah, so it was. We would do a show every Friday night during term time.
Yeah.
We would do Wednesday workshops, and then Saturday open workshops, so anyone could come.
Right.
So 3 times a week for most of the year, we were practicing being on stage and being funny. And so when we all graduated, we were like, maybe we should write something. We've been performing together for 3.5 years. And we're pretty good together. We're fairly sure. Yeah, we're pretty good together. So we wrote our first show. And because we were not London-based, no one had seen us at all when we hit the Fringe. But we knew the Fringe inside out because we'd been doing it for the previous 4 years because we lived in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And we were totally under the radar. And the fact that I think we surprised people because our first show was fine. It was fine. But because no one had heard of us, that was really surprising to people. So we actually made like $6,000 with our first show. And then a production company came up to us and were like, "Oh, we'd like to take you to Edinburgh next year." And their best case scenario, we lost 500 quid. And we're like, yeah, I think we're all right.
What sort of year was this then?
2006 was the first Penny Dreadfuls show at we were in Belly Dancer, which is where Spank used to be.
Yeah.
And that really served us well because it's licensed for loads more than they have seats out during the day.
Right.
So we started selling out. They were like, "Do you want us to put more tickets on sale?" I'm like, "You can do that." I'm like, "Yeah." Like, so we sold out, and then they would just keep selling tickets, and we were still sold out. But they would just put that many more chairs out.
Brilliant!
It's great.
And that's where you got your 5 years from. You did 5 continuous years with the Penny Dreadfuls.
Yeah. So we did 2006 in the Belly Dancer. Then we went to Belly Button. Which is a lovely room. I've been back a few times with other things. Then we went to Pleasance 2, and that was the best time. 2008 in Pleasance 2.
That's a big run.
Yeah, and we sold out every single ticket.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
And the staff that year was so awesome that they would just let us sneak a few people in to sit in the aisles. So we had literally had people rolling in the aisles, and it was our best show because we had this shadow puppetry part of it. So they were all people who were still at Edinburgh who had been doing puppetry shows. And so there were 8 of them and 3 of them would do a show every day, so they rotated, so they didn't have to do every show.
Right.
So it's not a huge workload for them, and we paid them. But it just made it really magical that we had this live puppetry illustrating bits of the story, and it was our best show. And I remember the other 2 don't really like to know if press are coming in or if anyone else is in, but I do. So I'm always like looking through the curtain, going, yeah, oh no, Bridget's in and she's brought stew. Because we'd been friends with Bridget for donkey's years before that. Well, not donkey's years, that was come later. And then, Bridget brought stew, bloody hell. And then a couple of days later, Kitson's in. And we were like, actually, we don't care about reviews at all. Kitson and Stuart Lee have come to see this show. We're happy. We are happy.
You're in. What I love about you is your versatility. I've seen you in many different performances, whether it's on stage, whether it's in a play, whether it's as a comedian or whatever. We'll come on to all that later. But I want to ask you, how do you remember all your routines? Do you have a method of remembering them all? Do you remember them all in your head or what?
No, not really. I don't. There's no method with stand-up. I find with acting, the method is once the blocking's down, then it becomes sort of a muscle memory thing.
Yeah.
But stand-up, I'll move differently.
Yeah.
In general, I mean, maybe with shows things get more sort of rigid, and that's how you remember it. Is this movement brings me to this thought, brings me to this. But I tend to like to keep it loose. There's something about stand-up that everyone loves is the fact that it's in the moment.
Yeah. That's the thing. I suppose that's live performance. You're in. Anything can happen in that particular moment, and that's what people love about comedy. The most creative thing I've done, other than this blog, was I wrote a play called The Applicant, and it's basically about me coming down from Carlisle. I've got a successful girlfriend who's in a job, and I've never had an interview. So I talk about Carlisle United in the interviews. I haven't got a clue. And it builds up until I get my favourite job, whatever. So I wrote this monologue, interview, monologue, and the monologue was trying to create what the story was about. And I'd never written a play before, and the first night I did it, after 10 weeks of rehearsal, I ran out with this 6-page monologue in my head, and I forgot the words. So the question, I was like a rabbit in headlights, but the question stemming from that, because you're an actor as well as a comedian, is there a difference with acting and comedy? I suppose you've got the audience as the fourth wall. If you get lines
with most plays, although I just the last couple of things I've done actually don't adhere to this rule, but most plays there is a fourth wall, and most stand-up there isn't.
Right.
It's a permeable relationship.
Yeah.
You're presenting something, and then you're taking their reaction immediately. But yeah, the job I've just come off was panto, so it's very very much not that. It's more in the stand-up tradition than it is most plays.
That's very good. And just following on from that, do you suffer from any nerves before you go on stage? And if so, how do you cope with them?
No, I think I argued myself out of nerves very early on. It's not going to help, so stop it.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm confident in the thing, so if it's stand up, if it's acting, and to an extent, singing, but singing's the one that actually I will get nervous because I'm not a trained singer. I'm not a very good singer. I get that's the one that oh god, and you know I don't yeah I don't get nervous, but I'm like I will have to rehearse extra, so just to give myself an underlining of like yeah you can carry this off.
Confidence is a wonderful thing. For years when I used to
Said one straight white man to another.
when when I used to go to comedy in the past, I always used to sit in the back row, and I always used to think this laugh that I should get insured for being so loud would carry. But then I started sitting in the front row, and certainly at one of the main gigs I went to, the compere used to get me up and ask me to sing, and I can't sing a note. I'm like, I cannot sing a note. So I thought, well, I've got to have a song that the audience will drown me out of. So I sang "Living on a Prayer" by Bon Jovi, and everybody loved it. And this went up for about 2, and then I went back to the comedy club a few months later, and they've never bothered me since.
I was,
but I'm with you on the singing.
Well, I think I have quite a nice voice, but I'm just not. I'm not a technically good singer. If you ask me to harmonise, I'm buggered. Unless I have bloody weeks of rehearsal. Because I have one of those laughs as well.
Yes, you've got a great laugh.
And I like I was once going to see a play at the Soho Theatre, Anthony Nielsen's show. God, it must be 10 years ago now. And I was like, I could hear my friend. That's definitely my friend Lucy laughing. The aforementioned playwright Lucy Kirkwood, who wrote the version of the Witches at the National. Right?
Yeah, it's on there now. Yeah. Really good.
She's brilliant.
Yeah.
But she's got a really distinctive laugh as well. And I was like, no, it's definitely her. And then she had obviously been doing the same, because at the end we were both like echolocating each other. We'd point just and I went to see John Oliver and Zaltzman do their show Political Animal.
Yeah.
At the Fringe after I'd seen Kitson, but because I knew the staff at the stand, they were like, "Oh, Tom, do you and your mate want to stay? Because like Political Animal's not sold very well." I'm like, yeah, fine,
yeah,
whatever. And we were sat near the front on the left, and John Oliver went, "I've never said this before, but could you laugh less?"
I get it sometimes. It's because I'm enjoying myself. So yeah. we are one and the same, my friend.
I've done it to you.
Oh yeah. One of my very favorite
in Limehouse
ones,
was it?
One of my very favorite ones. It's the reason why I've got the laugh. A very, very early gig in the 70s I went to on a family holiday, and we went to Torquay, and my mum and dad got tickets for Tom O'Connor. Right, now that's fine, okay, and we went, and he was suited and 70s comic and whatever, and he did his jokes, and as he told a joke, I would be like all of 10 years old. Literally I went ha really loud. And it floored him. I can remember him looking at me terrified, walking off, adjusting his tie, coming back on and starting again. And I'm like, oh my God, is that me? And I thought, I've got some in here, this is great. And it's carried me. Where the lovely thing about the blog now and the podcast, I've been doing it for about 5 years. And what's lovely is that wherever I go, the comedians know I am, and that's just magical. So I become part of their act, and which is great, and I love that. And I never dreamt that would ever happen, and that's a magical thing for me. So thank you all for doing that. Let's move on to the Edinburgh Fringe, because this is where I first saw you. I'm very lucky to be able to go to the Fringe every year. I go, it's something like my 18th year coming up, and
Lightweight.
and I think the very first, you've been longer than I have. I think, but I think the very first time I was there, you were in a play. You were in a play. You are there nearly every year I'm there. That was, I think my first one was 2005, and I'm sure you were in. It was. I saw an Eric Bogosian play about a DJ, and I'm sure you were in it.
No.
No.
Not
Maybe
I.
not. But I saw 2 or 3.
2005.
2005.
Oh, I was doing Scaramouche Jones
Yes,
at the Bedlam Theatre.
that's what I saw. That's what we saw.
You
Now
saw the
that-
2005 version?
Yeah, because.
Well, so I'm doing it again in 2025.
Oh, brilliant! Oh, I'm coming to see you in that, definitely.
Definitely.
We'll sort that out. You're doing that this year,
No, 2025.
2025.
So I did it in 2005,
Yeah.
and then I did it again in 2015.
Oh, brilliant! I missed the 2015 one, but
And so
yeah.
there's very few people who saw both.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the idea is, because it's the 100-year-old clown,
Yeah,
I'm going to do it every 10 years as I approach the age of the character.
that's brilliant. Well, I've worked out that when I'm 80 years old, as long as I'm mobile, or as long as someone can push me around in a wheelchair, the Fringe is 100.
Well,
So I'm
if
there.
you are in a wheelchair, good luck on those cobbles.
There's something magical about it, isn't there? You step off the train at Waverley, and it just hits you. And I go for a week, and I see about 50 shows, and everybody I know, all my friends come up, and it's just the most magical thing.
Yeah,
because-
my first one was 1999,
Right,
and I was in a production of West Side Story
right.
that Leeds University were putting on. Was there a twist? Yes, capoeira. And it was, so do you know Broughton Street?
Yes, yeah.
So you go down Broughton Street and you get to the little roundabout. That turns East Claremont Street.
Yeah.
So you take East Claremont Street until it changes to Bonington Road. And then you keep going down there. And then there's a daycare centre for the mentally ill. And that's where our production West Side Story was. We were sharing the space with Godspell, who had a Lego robot. And
You couldn't write it.
I mean, we knew nothing about the Fringe, but we
That's
got
the magic, though, isn't it?
we got 4 stars in the Scotsman, and in 1999, that meant something.
Yeah.
And also when we taped out the dimensions of the space in a hall in Leeds and rehearsed it in Leeds, but they'd forgotten to include the chairs, so we got there. And the key quote from the Scotsman: "The choreography is not so much in your face as quite literally in your lap." Kept stamping on me.
That's genius.
But yeah, 4 stars in the Scotsman. We sold out the rest of the run, and we had a lovely time. And we were all just like, "Bloody hell, what is this?" The Fringe was just like magical. And 1999, tickets were 4 or 5 quid.
Yeah.
For
When
everything.
I first went, I knew I was going to go, if I could, every year, and I have been since, bar the pandemic.
I mean, yeah, I missed the 2
Yeah.
pandemic years. The one where there was no Fringe, and the one that was a tiny Fringe.
Yeah.
But that's the only ones I've missed since 2001.
Yeah. It's amazing. It is incredible, and
I've been in Edinburgh for more Augusts than I haven't.
that's great. That's so good. And also as well, what is also encouraging is, certainly for the last 2 or 3 years, I've branched out. So I love to go to festivals and fringes, not only in Edinburgh. So we've got Leicester coming up in February. I go to Hastings all the time, which is lovely. It's a week-long one. I went to Hull for the first time last year. Brighton, of course. It's so good that it's healthy all round Britain. But of course, the major one is Edinburgh, and long may it be.
Yeah, I mean, there's something just so magical
Yeah.
about the diversity of work.
Yeah.
You know, performance, poetry, opera, comedy, theatre. All so many people from so many places around the world, all trying their best.
Yeah.
And there's something about that. You know, I don't want to be fucking hippie about it, but there's something of a good energy because there's loads of people trying hard.
Yeah, the thing I like about you, I think I said earlier, was your versatility, and we're going to talk more about this when we talk about ACMS later on. But 1 year I see you as a stand-up comedy, doing your stand-up comedy show in Edinburgh. The next year you're in a very serious play. The next year you're doing poetry. You're very versatile in what you do whenever I see you, and I love that about you. I think that's great. Would you agree that you are a versatile comic?
Well, I sort of view all performance as on a spectrum. You know, it's all part of the same thing.
Right.
Even down to like any point where one person is communicating with multiple people.
Yeah.
Even down to teaching, you know, it's all part of a thing. You know, the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I like. I think I'm trying to look at it objectively. I think I'm a better actor than I am a comedian, but I've always been the funny one. So.
Yeah,
you know, it's an opportunity to stand on stage and engage.
Let's talk about the Alternative Memorial Comedy Society now.
Yeah.
How did it start, and who's it's your idea, isn't it?
Well, so in 2010,
yeah,
Terry Saunders, whose show I directed that year, which was very good, 6.5 Loves. I don't know if there's a filmed version of it, but if there is, have a crack. He's a designer now. He had his birthday during August.
Right.
So had a few people around for dinner. And I was sat next to John Nick Roberts, who I'd known through the sketch stuff, because him and Nadia Kamal had a few shows called The Behemoth. And so we'd gig with them quite a bit, and we liked them a lot. And so we were sat next to each other, and we were bemoaning the lack of interesting new material nights in London. And so we basically just started coming up with what we would do. What we'll do this. We'll do this. And then it took us 6 months to actually, it was January 2011 was the first one.
Yeah.
And we already had in the idea of, after every act we shout a failure.
Yes.
and the audience shout back a noble failure. So like we had that from show one. We already had the heckles.
Yeah.
The permitted heckles. You're allowed to heckle at any point, but only from the list of pre-approved heckles.
Genius. Yeah.
And we had that from day one, and we had 12 of those, and we had the idea of the board.
Yes. Yeah.
So the board of the society, who basically just regulars, and they're allowed to do every gig if they want. Obviously, they get really busy because we picked real good people. Yeah. It's like, Bridget, Sarah Pascoe, Issy Sutty, and Josie Long. Are they all really busy? Yeah, they're really busy. So we'll have to put other women, will we? Because none of our women regulars are available. So we started that, and not that many people came to the first one, but I think everybody who came to the first one came to the second.
Yeah, yeah.
And we were fortnightly at that point, and it was still called. I said those three things, the heckles, the thing, and the board, but there was other things that didn't last the course because it was originally called the Alternative Comedy Memorial Society (brackets) or the Captain Planet Repertory Theatre Company, because the last thing we would do is an unrehearsed reading of a Captain Planet episode that I had transcribed from YouTube, and the headliner played Captain Planet. And I wouldn't have told them this before they arrived. They would do their set and then go, and now here's a script. You have to play Captain Planet. So Tony Law was the first.
Oh, genius! Couldn't be better.
Perfect Captain Planet accent. So that fell by the wayside after the first 6 minutes because it was quite a lot of work. It was quite a lot of work to transcribe a whole episode, Captain Planet. Because amazingly, they haven't published the scripts.
No, well, that's their problem. So,
but I made it mine.
When you put on an ACMS show, is any comedian invited on to it? If they want to go and do 10 minutes, will you let them do 10 minutes?
We have the board, which is the ladies I mentioned, plus we've added a few since, Shelf and Joz Norris, Ben Tarjay, who else? Elf Lyons.
Yeah.
All of them, anyone who's on the board, and that you can see on the website, which is noblefailure.org.
Yes. Of course, yes.
Anyone who's on the board has rights to perform at any ACMS, and they also have booking rights.
Right.
If they go, this person, I think they would do really well at ACMS. They can put, not necessarily every gig, but because we might be full. Even if we're full, Tom Bell can turn up and go on because he's a board member. Other than that, people ask me, or they ask Isabel, or they ask Shan, who is the new co-host, or Joz, I don't think we say no to many people.
No. The reason I ask is that I go to a lot of new comedy nights, and obviously when you go there, people are sitting in the audience, but there's a list, like your board, there's a list that they just get up and do 5 minutes. So I went to Vic Slayton's first ever gig, I went to Josh Balf's first ever gig, I went to Paul Cox's first ever gig, and they've all gone on to great things, and that's wonderful. And it's similar.
Were you at Vic's first gig, which was ACMS?
No, sorry, it wasn't the first one. It was about the second or third one, because indeed you stand me corrected. The first gig was the ACMS, because I went in because I was late. I saw her at the Savoy Tap, and I was late for the thing, but I could see there was some magic there as I walked in, and we hit it off straight away afterwards. And she said, I've heard so much about you and all the rest of it. And that was it. But I think she'd done about 3 or 4. But they used to have the free comedy nights at the Savoy Tap, so we used to go there, and that's where they all came up. That's where they all started. But I know Vix goes a lot now to ACMS. And it's wonderful that you give them the point is, it's wonderful that you give all the comedians the ground to develop, and having a night like that's where
we've been going 11 years.
Yeah,
we've got a certain amount of trust from the audiences.
Yeah.
So it won't be exactly the same people every time, but most people who come have been before.
Yeah, yeah.
And they know what a come down the rabbit hole show it is.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
we cause that's what Luke and I at that dinner party wanted to instantiate. It's like this needs to have this theatrical thing. We're already in a performance. It's not just a guy chatting, like you would have at most open mic nights. And you know, good emceeing is great, but it's usually just a guy chatting. We have to like put a frame around it and go, this is a show, this is a thing. And that allows risks to be taken.
Yeah.
You know, like and because we're saying it's only 7 minutes. It's only 7 minutes. So no one in the audience is being arsey, like, because like no one's going to be on for half an hour. If you don't like it, it's fine.
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
Also, we're going to shout a failure after everything anyway.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we're dialing down the stakes. It's low stakes, which means that you can take high stakes risks.
Yeah, 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 yeah. What is wonderful is that you've got the regular comedy night in London, but I was on my last day. It was the last day of the Edinburgh Fringe last year, and I was absolutely exhausted. I was sitting in the Pleasance courtyard with Leslie Gold and Nick Kirk, and we're having a drink. And Nick goes, right, he says, we're going for one last night. And we came to ACMS at the Monkey Barrel.
Was it the awards?
The awards. And that was easily the best show I'd seen in the entire Fringe.
It's complete nonsense.
All of everybody. One of my favourite acts is Frizz Frizzle. He did. He sang his song about wood and nails, and then the chorus was "I want to be a door," which I still sing to this day. and it's like, here's so and so, and here's but this is why we've got an award. It was genius.
Frizz did not know that they were going to get up, because it is literally a random number generator. Yeah. And so I told everyone, if you've been on at ACMS and you are in the room,
there was
you could be put up at any point.
Great acts on that night,
and also the audience members. There was a guy who, like, did he say he'd taken mushrooms or something? And the first time he got up was like made sense, and the second time he did not make any sense. Because I think he we used to have bridges being eligible, so it was any named set of steps was also eligible for every award as well as every comedian. But audience members could claim a set of steps as their own. And I think he was it Chet Wins Wind or something.
Genius. Well, please keep doing it. It's every. Is it every month now or every other week?
In London, we're monthly.
Monthly. It's the first Monday, is it?
Second Monday, I think. Second or third. I think the second's 12th of February. Yeah. So yeah, second Monday.
Highly recommended. Where's it on at?
It's on the Phoenix, on Cavendish Square, but that may change, who knows, by the time this comes out, but it's noblefailure.org for all details of the shows.
Brilliant.
Or on Twitter, I refuse to call it X, on Twitter,
so do I.
altcommemsoc.
Well, please keep doing it. It's a great idea.
And in Edinburgh, we will be, not confirmed this yet, but I'm presuming Monkey Barrel will have us back. Will be Sunday to Wednesday. During the Fringe, which is 3 lots of 4 days, and then the final Sunday will be the awards. Yeah,
and that was amazing because it started at midnight and it finished at something like 4 a.m. It was
no legally we finished before 3.
It must be 3 o'clock then. Yeah,
Yeah, no,
it
no,
was amazing.
we were trying to finish every day at 2:30,
Yeah,
and we managed that twice in the 13 shows, I think.
so good, so good. Um, let's move on. So, this is a question I want to ask you. I'm celebrating 50 years, which is bonkers, watching stand-up comedy in 2024. How do you think comedy's evolved over the years?
Um, Stand up has become a much broader church, I think.
Yeah,
Um, I think that there's a divide just in terms of what comedians themselves feel. I think between a comedian and a comic. So, you know, a road comic, like someone who's like compulsively has to like talk about stuff on stage, and comedian, someone who's compulsively has to be funny.
yeah,
And I think these are both opened up, and quite a lot of influence of clown, certainly in this country, has made it a broader thing.
I agree with that completely. I think there are so many more people who want to be comedians now. But I like the fact that it will always be subjective, and I like the fact that you will always have clowns, you will always have storytellers, you will always have one-line merchants, you will always have idiots. You know, but yet it's for everybody. So when the
Yeah,
audience goes,
I think the one thing that
yeah,
unites most comedians in this country is sort of a low status,
yeah,
sort of a you know,
yeah, yeah,
whether they're a clown or they're a one-liner merchant,
yeah.
they're othered a little bit by a low status. I think that's the only thing that like most comedians are.
I think apart from being funny, which is the main thing,
It's got to be.
you've got to be funny, otherwise, everybody everybody feels awkward. I think um, if you've got another attribute, whether you're silent, angry, endearing, warm, that's interesting as well, because you're looking for originality as well.
Well, I think that's the thing. You've got to be yourself
Yeah,
and try and make yourselfness. You
yeah,
know, that's what you've got to work on is trusting to be yourself and to be
yeah,
open. And you know, if that's an angry man shouting, if that's a silly person falling over, you know, like what makes you you,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
that's what communicates most truthfully to an audience.
That's a great answer. And following on from that, who are your favourite comedians, past and present? Who makes you laugh? Did you have comedy growing up, for example, or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, Python's always going to be huge
Yeah,
because I grew up abroad, it was all, you know, videos and
right.
stuff rather than telly. Because other than I can only remember Perfect Strangers, that weird, if you remember that sitcom,
Yeah,
being on Bangladeshi TV. But other than that, it was all videos we rented from the British High Commission video library. So it's, you know, Python, Blackadder,
yeah,
Young Ones,
yeah,
that, you know, Billy Connolly.
yeah.
Billy Connolly Live 94 was a huge. It's like, oh right, okay.
He's
Um,
brilliant. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean,
To have the ability to take the one word and just fly, or to think of a phrase and just fly with it, is genius, I think.
yeah, one of the ones that always come back to me. I think it's from Live 94. Is the bemoaning the lack of originality and swearing nowadays. He goes,
Yes.
you used to hear people go, Jesus, suffering fuck. 3 words. Jesus, suffering fuck. You're like, yep. Yep.
It's all
I'm
the
in.
words, isn't it? It's perfect.
I remember the first Ben Elton I saw, or it might have been the first thing that made me like cry laughing on my own. Because laughing is often a communal experience, but it's just like, but like I just couldn't resist.
Yeah.
And then latterly, well, when I was like 16, 17, Eddie Izzard and Bill Hicks.
Yeah. Every one you've mentioned, I've seen live, which is amazing. I managed to see Bill Hicks at the Royal Exchange Theatre at Manchester.
Cool.
And he came on at midnight, and I've never seen a comedian who was in complete control of the room and was free to say whatever he wanted. And we were crying at what he said because everybody was so relatable to what he was talking about, and he was just.
I was absolutely floored. My 3 heroes when I was about that 17 were Harold Pinter, Bob Dylan, and Bill Hicks. I mean,
what a cool dude!
what a little white boy I was. But I stand by them. I think they're all geniuses.
That's brilliant. Brilliant.
And then recently, I absolutely love a lot of the Americans. Kyle Kinane, Mike Birbiglia, John Mulaney.
Yeah.
These are all white dudes again, aren't they? Bloody hell. But I mean, it's true. I re-listened to Sleepwalk with Me and Carl Kinane's second record, third record. Like, they're great.
So good. My first ever gig, age 7, was on holiday in Scarborough, and we went to see Les Dawson, which was just.
Where at?
He was at the Floral Halls Theatre at Scarborough, and I went with my mum, dad, brother, and my grandma. And my grandma, God bless her, was late for the show, and she crawled down in front of the thing to get to a seat, and he took the piss out of her for the rest of the night, right? And the encore, he's done it many times, but the encore, he walked on, he said, ladies and gentlemen, we're very privileged tonight to have the chairwoman of the Scarborough Women's Institute sitting in the back, and pointed at my grandma, went purple. He said, she's been let out the home today. Today's her birthday. She's 111 years old, and I'd all like you to join in and sing Happy Birthday with me on the piano. And he went and he started playing badly, and the whole audience were like, people. My grandma's like that, and halfway through, he looks to the wings, goes, what? Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, she's not 111, she's ill. And the curtain come down, and that was it.
Oh,
there's something here I love.
That reminds me of an Alex Horne joke.
Yeah.
He's talking about cats and how in different cultures they have a different number of lives. Obviously, they have 9 lives in this country.
Yeah.
But I don't know if in Greece they have 0 lives. Sorry, no. In Greece, cats have olives. Similar gag.
Brilliant. Well, I did that. That's so good. I'm going to tell that again. So he was first, and then a year later, in exactly the same holiday destination, we saw Tommy Cooper, and he was just incredible. The curtains opened. He's lying on a bed, and nothing happens, and one woman in the packed crowd pisses herself laughing, and it trickles round. So everybody in the room is crying, and he hasn't done a thing for about 2 minutes, and with perfect timing, he pops his head up. He goes, "What? Has somebody come on?" Genius.
Great.
And the whole reason I think why he was funny was that I like to think he didn't realise he was that funny, and that's why he was funny. But he knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, you kind of wonder about the formation of comedians. It's
yeah,
when what was their first laugh?
yeah,
What laugh did they get first?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's almost like how did you first fall in love? You know,
yeah.
whatever imprint that made on you is gonna remain.
Well, I started writing lists. I wrote down in a diary the act, the venue, my numbered rating system, and that's how it started. And then it developed into a spreadsheet, and then the blog came, and blah 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 blah. And here we are now. So over the years, I mean, another highlight was Rick Mail in Carlisle. That was incredible.
I mean, like
Oh,
I often use like Rick Maylism, things I've learned
yeah,
from Rick
yeah.
Mail.
He was a
The yeah, I mean, I'm not as competitive as I've heard stories about him going on Blackadder and he wanted to win, and everyone else like, which we're making a TV show as a group. No one wins, but he still wanted to win.
yeah. The tour I saw, it was fascinating because a couple of Edinburghs ago they had the support for him was Andy de la Tour, and he did a show in Edinburgh a couple of years ago, and I went up to him afterwards because he started talking about the Rick Mail show that he was supporting in. And I said to him, I said, I was there, I said, and I can remember you really warmed the audience up, but nobody had a clue what was gonna happen, because what happened was they're playing the theme to the Dallas, I think it was, and the Muppet Show intertwined, scratched, and he's going, damn, the record player's not there, and you can hear him all offset and everything. And then all of a sudden he jumps on stage, his trousers explode, and he goes, "Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the Carl." That's what he called Carlisle. And he started doing the Kevin Turby looking round, and if you weren't laughing, he threw you out. It was he actually physically threw you out. I don't know whether there were plans, but it was so good.
There was a thing that I like to call the male turn. The Rick Mail turn.
Yeah.
So when you change emotion in the middle of a sentence.
Yes.
So if you're angry, that is brilliant. Intensity stays the same, but the emotion changes.
He's so brilliant. That was a highlight. But I mean, on and on and on and on and on. I first came to London in 1988. My first comedy store was Linda Smith, God bless her, Richard Morton, Phil Jupitus, John Maloney was MC. Top of the bill was Charles Fleischer, who was this zany voice of incredible American comic with voices, and he was never heard of again because he went to voice Roger Rabbit. I'm so pleased I saw him. but now, of course, I go once or twice a week and know them all. I love Josh Widdicombe. I love Kerry Godliman. I love Boothby Graffoe.
Boothby, man.
Oh, he's so good. I've been a fan for years. He's been here.
I interviewed him in 2003 for 3 Weeks magazine in Edinburgh.
Yeah,
I think it was 2003. And I proposed it to the magazine because I've been a fan of his for a year or so, like, let's say, I'd seen in the previous years. And when he found out I wasn't being paid, he insisted on buying me lunch and gave me a CD of his the CD of him and Antonio Forcioni.
Oh, brilliant! I've got all the CDs.
What Italian?
The music is brilliant, and the lyrics are just spot. I love.
Or Umbrella Head Boy.
Yeah, brilliant. When he came on here, he didn't have a clue what it was, and it was a very early interview I did, but he's walking through his house. Have you met the wife? Here's the cat. And then he just sat down and, what's this? So we started. He's wonderful.
He's a great man and a great comic.
Yeah,
great comic.
So good. and following on from that, like me, do you go to a lot of comedy gigs as a member of the audience?
I don't go to a lot of mixed bills
Mm.
as a member of the audience, but I try and see quite a lot of full shows,
Yeah.
whether that's in preview or in Soho now or wherever
So,
else.
if you're on a mixed bill night, would you stay and watch all the acts?
Usually, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
yeah, so and that's healthy because I think if everybody does go and see things, they can learn bits and pieces from how
It's
others.
just interesting to see,
Yeah,
and I like comedy
yeah,
in a way that some comedians don't. And I've been doing it so long that usually, if I'm on a mixed bill, there's at least two or three good friends.
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah. It's
so
great. That's so good. That's so good. I've so much enjoyed talking to you. I'm so pleased you've had the time to.
no, it's been an absolute delight.
It's been so good. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we depart? What are your social media? Do you have
I
any
am.
podcasts, anything like that?
Look out! There might be a Penny Dreadfuls thing coming up soon,
Okay.
which will be a podcast. Yet to be recorded, but because Humphrey's mainly based in LA, so timing issues a little bit. But that'll happen at some point. Other than that, I'm Turley God across the internet.
Yeah.
Whether on Magic the Gathering online or Twitter.
Brilliant, my friend. Well, I'm going to come to the ACMS very very soon.
Sweet.
And I regard you genuinely. I regard you as a fringe legend.
Oh, thank you
I
very much.
really do because you the amount of work you put in to try and make us all laugh is extraordinary. So thank you.
I did 75 shows last Fringe.
That's bonkers. But that's genius. And I will see you again very soon. Thank you so much for your time and all the best to you.
Ta-da.
Take care.